Let's talk to Kevin Hollinrake, Conservative Party Chairman, MP, of course, up there at Conservative Party Conference in Manchester. Kevin, very good morning to you.
Morning, Mike.
I said earlier, it's surprising that Keir Starmer's in the cockpit, which apparently is not supposed to be called the cockpit anymore. It's supposed to be called the flight deck. I'm surprised the plane went in the right direction and didn't make some kind of U-turn over the channel and ended up in Iceland.
By God, I bet the passengers were panicking when they heard Keir Starmer's voice coming over the channel. It must have been, God almighty, a frightening thought. But yes, well, hopefully for the passengers' sake, they got a safe landing. But that's not what the UK economy is seeing right now.
No. Well, I mean, the UK economy is taking a terrible battery. There's also a couple of news stories around that you thought you might want to have addressed, you know, to wit. One, where the CPS, the place he used to run, have taken umbrage at what the government have done about this Chinese spy case. They're saying that the government, and Keir Starmer in particular, and Number 10 in particular, have been particularly unhelpful in trying to prosecute these two individuals because they don't want to apparently call China an enemy in a court of law. That's one story. The other one is on the front page of the Telegraph today, the European Union threatening to cripple the British steel industry with 50% tariffs.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible, the story on the Chinese spy story. I mean, the man's got no backbone. He needs to stand up for this country. That's why we need a leader like Kemi Badenoch. You know, really, it's not the first time either he's failed to stand up for Britain against China. We've seen this with the Chinese super embassy in the heart of London, which could be very damaging to the UK's national security, and he's been warned against it by the security services, yet still he ploughs on regardless, because he can't get any growth from UK businesses because he's crashed business confidence. So he's cozying up to the Chinese, and in a way that's very damaging to our national security. Just completely hopeless. We need a leader with backbone. That's why we need Kemi Badenoch.
Well, a leader with backbone she may be. She's going to make a speech this afternoon, but there does seem to be a feeling, generally speaking, in Britain, Kevin, that nobody's really that interested in what the Tories have got to say at the moment.
I get that. Listen, we're only just over a year after a very clear defeat of the Conservative Party, and rightly or wrongly, although we did some good things in 14 years, we made some mistakes. That trust, which is the currency of politics, takes some rebuilding. The way that Kemi's decided to do that, and I think I support this, is take her time to develop policies to make sure they are affordable and deliverable, and that's what we've seen this week from Kemi. We've seen this plan for a stronger economy and stronger borders. That's the right thing to do. Stronger economy in terms of controlling public spending so we can cut taxes and cut debt. Stronger borders in terms of our departure from the European Convention on Human Rights. She hasn't taken a knee-jerk approach to this. She's got Lord Wolfson, who's one of the most senior legal minds in the country, to look at this, and he's decided the only way we can control our borders properly and stop those small boats is by leaving the European Convention, and that's what she said she'll do this week, and I completely support that. So I think over time people will start to listen to us more and see that we are serious, but also our plans are deliverable, and that's what people want to see, a leader that will stand up for this country.
But, of course, you've got a problem, haven't you, Kevin? Because an awful lot of people in the Tory party who were in the Tory party are no longer in it. You know, I'm told there's 900 less people, fewer people up there at this conference this time than there were this time last year. You had 22 Conservative councillors defecting yesterday to reform. You've got, you know, more and more Tory voters leaving the party and joining reform. You know, how are you going to stop that happening?
Well, actually, the conference is a very good conference, very positive, upbeat and optimistic. I think you saw a peak in numbers last year because of the leadership contest, and that attracted lots of attention, including media attention. But there's no doubt we need to make sure we can communicate with the public and they can see that we're a proper Conservative party again, there were proper Conservative values and policies. Kemi is a true blue. You'll see that from her policies. You'll see an increasing drumbeat of announcements. There's proper Conservative policies that people will be persuaded again. We're the only party that will both control the borders, get those stronger borders, but crucially a stronger economy. You get a stronger economy by controlling public spending. No other party is going to control public spending like the Conservatives. No other party is going to make sure that small businesses at the heart of our plans like the Conservatives. We've got to make that case. I'm very keen to make that case to you today and to your viewers, and we need to do that time and time again, and I think over time people will trust us and people will come back to the Conservatives, be that membership or be that voters.
But I speak to a lot of Conservative voters, former Conservative voters, who say to me very, very frequently, Kevin, that they won't ever vote Tory again. How are you going to get them back?
Well, exactly as I say, Mike, it's about setting out a clear message, as we've done this week. Those stronger economy, stronger borders. It's about repeating it incessantly, as I'm doing today on your show, but also having the policies that underpin that. And that from that, as people will come to that message and believe it is only the Conservative Party will do all those things, that will properly control public spending. You see some very influential people that have joined the party this week. Matthew Syed, who is a very well-regarded commentator, who says only the Conservatives will balance the books, that will live within our means, and that's critical right now. And I think the more people see our spending plans, see our tax plans, reducing tax but reducing spending, making sure of that stronger economy, but also will protect our borders, and so that's the job in hand, that clear message. And I think when people understand that message and believe in it, I think more people will come back and vote Conservative, join our party and persuade others to do the same. And that's how we win back. It doesn't happen overnight, Mike. It's a long road. There's hard yards we need to do, but I see there's a real appetite from my Conservative colleagues here, from those members that are here, to go out and do that. I'm very excited about the future. And I really do believe that the only answer to this country's problems are by voting for a Conservative government.
Yeah, and I'm sure you do believe that, but the trouble is that the only evidence that people have got about how you would control the borders is that how you didn't control the borders when you were in office and how you didn't control the economy. And I know you were better at the economy than the Labour Party were, and I'll give you that, because they've completely lost the plot, and we've now got, as we say, an £84 billion deficit that sits like a huge, carbuncle on the state of the nation. But the problem is that, you've got a track record and it's not very good. And that's the one that they see. And for all the promises that you make, I think an awful lot of people are sick to death of hearing promises that don't get kept.
I understand that. We did make some mistakes on migration. I think when we finally got the levers of migration, when we left the European Union, as we did, and the Conservative Party did make sure we delivered on Brexit, but those rules were too lax. They were too generous in terms of allowing people to come into this country illegally. We changed those rules, and that has had an effect. And Kemi Badenoch has said she'll be even tougher in terms of the rules to reduce migration to minimal levels. That's legal migration. On illegal migration, of course, those small boats, that was a fairly recent phenomenon, about 2020 onwards. We legislated for that, including the Rwanda plan. We opposed every turn on that by the Labour Party, by the Liberal Democrats. We finally passed that legislation. What did Labour do as soon as it took office? It scrapped it. That was a huge mistake. You do need to make sure that if people come to the UK from another country illegally, they are deported back to their own country or back to a third country, a safe country, and that's what we passed with the Rwanda plan, and we'd do so again.
Yes, no, and I agree that they didn't give that a chance, and maybe if they had given it a chance, it would have been a smarter call. But we are where we are, and overall, I think, the momentum would appear to be with one man, and that one man is called Nigel Farage. Have a look at what Kemi Badenoch does when she's asked about him.
Nigel Farage is a politician.
On what basis?
Do you admire him?
I don't understand your question.
Well, it's just an open question. What do you think of him?
Why aren't you asking if I admire Keir Starmer or Ed Davey?
Well, I asked Keir Starmer about whether he admired Nigel Farage as well.
And I think it's very interesting that a lot of the media in Westminster is very interested about asking about Nigel Farage. I'm not interested in Nigel Farage. I'm not interested in talking about Nigel Farage. You tell me that people aren't interested in me. I'm on your show. Ask me about what I think. You spend most of the interview asking about reform. Reform's already had their conference back.
My mate isn't making you cross that I'm doing this, because you seem irritated.
No, it isn't. I just think that your viewers want to know what I'm offering.
So, I mean, my viewers this morning have thought that's a bit of a strange reaction to a question. If you don't like Nigel Farage, just say so. If you don't admire him, just say so. Why do you pretend that you don't want to talk about him? You've got to talk about him, haven't you?
I'm happy to talk about him, and you know, over the years I have met many slick salesmen like Nigel Farage, and I very much admire their presentational ability, but you've got to scratch beneath the surface. And you know, Nigel Farage is making promises he can't deliver upon. He's spending promises £140 billion a year. Now, you pointed out earlier, Mike, we've already got a deficit of 80 billion. That's just for current spending. Yeah. Actually, when you have the whole deficit, the increase in debt every year is about 150 billion pounds a year. So you're into a deficit that's 300 billion pounds a year if people vote for reform. It's simply unaffordable, simply undeliverable. It's classic Nigel Farage. He's that one-man band. He'll say anything to please anybody. It's simply not deliverable, and people need to understand that. And we'll keep making the case why that is the case. But of course, presentationally, very good. In terms of deliverability, not very good at all. Simply impossible.
OK, well, we'll see, and we'll find out in the fullness of time. Kevin, good to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed. Kevin Hollinrake there, Conservative Party chairman, convinced that they're very optimistic in the Tory party. They'll somehow get back into power. I'm not so sure anybody would share that view.